Australia has been the location of some of the world's most chilling and perplexing unsolved murders, from the windswept dunes of Sydney's southern beaches to the lonely highways of Queensland and the suburbs of Melbourne, where a masked predator once hunted his victims in the dead of the night. These are not ghost stories. They're worse, because they're real, and the monsters are still out there. This is Australia's creepiest unsolved murders. Welcome back to the final Halloween special for 2025 here on Shadow Matter, where every week for the month of October, I have been releasing videos that explore a spookier side of our world. If you haven't seen those other videos, a link to the playlist will be found in the description below or on screen here. Today's episode, we are going to explore the crimes that have haunted Australia for years, and even a relatively new case that has some officials believing an unidentified serial killer may be hunting the suburbs of Australia's idyllic tourist towns. But more on that later in the video. So put the kids to bed, tell the trick-or-treaters, not right now thanks, turn up the volume and set your notifications to silent. It's about to get spooky in here. Number 5, the Wanda Beach murders. It began as the kind of day Australians dream about. Bright skies, surf breaking in rhythmic calm, and the summer heat drawing thousands to the sand. It was January the 11th, 1965, when 15-year-olds Marianne Schmidt and Christine Sharrock took a train with Marianne's younger siblings from Sydney's West Ryde to Cronulla. Ordinary girls from ordinary families walking into a story that would become one of the nation's darkest. By midday, the two friends left the younger children to play and wandered north toward the quieter stretch known as Wanda Beach. They carried towels and a transistor radio, seen laughing as they climbed the dunes. No one could have known that they were walking into eternity. The next morning, a local man walking with his nephews noticed something half buried in the sand. What he thought was a mannequin was, in fact, a lifeless body. Both girls had been viciously attacked. One had her throat slashed so deeply it nearly decapitated her. Attempts had been made for sexual assault, but a later autopsy found that both of the girls' hymens were still intact. Drag marks through the dunes indicated one of the girls tried to flee but was apprehended, incapacitated, and dragged back to the spot of the other girl before being hastily covered by sand. Police descended on the scene, but the evidence was chaotic. Wind had erased tracks and curious onlookers trampled over clues. The killer's footprints led toward the sea and vanished. The attack weapon was never found. The murders shattered Sydney's illusion of safety. Detectives interviewed more than 7,000 people. They chased every rumour. Men seen watching the girls, strangers with cameras, loners on trains, even a teenage boy hunting crabs. The latter of which was witnessed by Marianne's brother, who claims the teenager was seen 3 times, once in the company of his sister Anne Sharrock, and again sometime much later walking alone. There has been doubt about his description of this person, as the brother's testimony over time variously suggested he had a homemade spear gun, a fishing knife, or maybe both. The last official sighting of the girls was around 12:45 by local fireman Dennis Dostine, who was walking in the area with his son and saw the girls walking about 730 meters north of the surf club. Dostine told police that they seemed to be hurrying, and one of the girls often looked behind her as if they were being followed. He did not see anybody else. There had been a number of people seen in the area who were never identified and never came forward. Suspects over the years have included Alan Bassett, who had been jailed for the brutal assault and murder of Caroline Orphan in Wollongong on the 11th of June 1966, and serial killer Christopher Wilder. Years later, suspicion fell on Derek Percy, a convicted child killer with a matching profile, but he denied involvement. While Percy can be linked to Cronulla on the date of the murders, no other links have been found. It was hoped he would make confessions on his deathbed, but these unfortunately never came. Time turned the beach into legend. New dunes rose, burying the old. Yet locals say that when the wind is right, the sand still moves like something restless underneath. Number 4, the Highway of Death, Queensland's Flinders Highway. There is a road that cuts through northern Queensland from Townsville to Mount Isa, 1,000 kilometres of heat, scrub and silence. Truckers call it the Flinders Highway, others call it the Highway of Death. Since 1970, travellers have vanished here. At least a dozen souls swallowed by distance and dust. It began with Anita Cunningham and Robin Hoynville Bartram, two friends hitchhiking west in 1972. Robin's body was found months later in bushland. She'd been shot twice. Anita was never found. The case haunted police, who admitted they were chasing a killer who could move unseen across endless country. Then came more. 1975, Tony Jones, a 20-year-old student, disappeared while hitching to Mount Isa. 1982, the Mackay sisters, aged 7 and 5, were abducted near Townsville and later discovered murdered beside a creek. 1990s onward, more names, more faces, more grieving families. Each case carried echoes of the last, isolated spots, no witnesses, victims often traveling alone. Some believe the highway hides not one murderer, but several. Others think it's the hunting ground of a single predator who knew the land too well. A man called Andy Albury once claimed responsibility for multiple killings here. Investigators dubbed him the Monster of the North, but his confessions shifted with the wind and no solid evidence followed. The highway remains open, an artery through the outback. At dusk, when the horizon burns red, you can drive for hours without seeing another car. The road hums, the bush sways, and you realize how easily someone could vanish out there. Even now, police reopen files when new bones surface along the verges. Families still leave flowers on mile markers where they believe their children disappeared. The Flinders Highway is more than a road. It's a grave stretching from coast to desert. I've actually got a full-length episode on that, so if you would like to learn more about it, link in the description below. Number 3, the murder of Lesley Larkin, 1984. In November 1984, the Sunshine Coast was paradise, white sand, gentle surf, and the sleepy calm of Noosa Heads before it became a tourist empire. Inside a small apartment on Karela Avenue, 31-year-old Lesley Patricia Larkin was preparing for bed. She was a yoga instructor, known for her warmth and quiet spirit. At around 12:30 a.m., a neighbor heard Lesley's dog barking outside. Faint, but unmistakable. He goes outside to investigate and sees Lesley's dog Riff Raff almost 100 meters away. "What are you doing out here?" he mutters to himself before going to retrieve the beloved pet. Upon returning to the apartments with the dog, he sees Lesley's door open slightly. What he finds would next change the lives of Lesley's family and the community of Noosa forever. Lesley was on the bedroom floor, naked, beaten, and barely alive. She died in hospital the following day. There was no forced entry, no theft, no brutality. Police concluded she had likely known her killer or had let them in. Detectives combed Noosa for answers. They spoke to neighbors, ex-partners, students, even passing tourists. The last person to see her alive was actually her neighbor, who came in to talk to her about a job offer, but later inquiries dismissed him from the case entirely. Hundreds of statements, none leading anywhere. Forensics in 1984 were limited. What traces there were degraded quickly in the coastal humidity. Her death shocked the community. Noosa was supposed to be the safest corner of Queensland. Fear crept in where trust once lived. Decades later, police reopened the case. A $250,000 reward was offered. A person of interest was interviewed in 2024 after new information surfaced, but still, no arrest. Time has painted over the apartment walls, new tenants coming and going, unaware of the violence once inside. Yet detectives say the case remains active. Someone, somewhere, knows who killed Lesley Larkin. And on warm coastal nights when the wind carries the scent of salt and rain, the quiet streets of Noosa seem to remember her name. Number 2, the Byron Bay serial killer theory. If paradise could keep secrets, Byron Bay would be the best liar of all. Behind its postcard beaches and bohemian charm, the Northern Rivers region hides a long shadow. Decades of disappearances stretching from Bellingen to Ballina. It starts in 1977 with Narelle Cox, a young hitchhiker heading towards Brunswick Heads. She never arrived. 12 years later, Susan Keeley vanished near Bellingen. Her car was later found abandoned. In 2003, Rose Howe left a friend's house in Goonellabah and was never seen again. Then came Simone Strobel, the German backpacker found dead in Lismore in 2005, her body hidden beneath palm fronds. Different women, different years, but one haunting similarity: the North Coast swallowed them. Locals began to whisper of a pattern. Journalists connected cases across decades, coining the term The Byron Bay serial killer. Numerous women have shared frightening personal stories of near misses with suspicious individuals in and around Byron Bay. Social media influencer Bodhi Jako also shared a creepy encounter he believes was linked to the cases. In January 2025, Jako detailed a creepy late-night encounter in Byron Bay. He was staying at a house rented by two girls who had been hearing strange noises and receiving notes and flowers from an unknown person. One night, Jako woke up to find an unknown man looking through a window. He believes his presence might have prevented a more malicious outcome.
I was sleeping on the floor in my friend's house. This house belonged to two girls and they had had creepy notes and anonymous flowers dropped off and left on their front door. One night they woke up to noises outside of their window, and when they opened the curtains, there was a man standing there. So there I am, peacefully asleep. At about 2 in the morning, I just wake up. For no particular reason. I just wake up and I look to my right because there's a little bit of rustling. There is a head poked through those curtains in the early hours of the morning, watching.
Jako later shared his story on Instagram, drawing connections to a rumored serial killer in the area, a claim he clarified was based on a series of unsettling events. Police have never confirmed such a link, yet the coincidences are unsettling. Remote roads, transient populations, travellers passing through. Notorious backpacker murderer Ivan Milat, who died in 2019, was investigated as a possible suspect in some of the cases, but was officially ruled out by police. However, some question this conclusion, pointing to his history of picking up hitchhikers in the region. The region is beautiful, but it's also lonely. Dense bushlands and cane fields where screams vanish into the wind. Renewed investigations in 2019 and 2024 looked for common threads: geographic clusters, vehicle sightings, DNA correlations. New South Wales police have investigated the disappearances using various task forces over the years. However, a police spokesperson maintains that, to this date, there is no evidence to indicate a common offender was responsible for the disappearances. The matters are still under investigation by the State Crime Command's Homicide Squad Unsolved Homicide Team. This serial killer theory even has some high-profile advocates, such as New South Wales Upper House MP Jeremy Buckingham, who in October 2024 addressed State Parliament claiming that a serial killer was operating in the area. He stated that casual links existed between some of the cases he claimed was shared by some senior police. Although officially, as stated before, New South Wales Police deny this rumour or theory. This theory has been circulating for a long time, but recent attention has been brought back by the likes of social media, news articles, and even a doco-series. Murder Down Under, Byron Bay Murders. The two-part series was broadcast in Australia on Channel 9 and 9 Now in July 2025, which were prompted and heavily feature the investigation led by our old mate mentioned before, New South Wales MP Jeremy Buckingham. Nothing concrete has emerged. The official stance remains there may be many killers, or none that fit the legend. But try telling that to the families still waiting. Byron Bay has grown into a global tourist haven, yet missing person posters still appear on poles outside cafes. Faded photos stare back at the living. Some locals swear that the town feels different at night, that beneath the sounds of the waves and guitar strings, something older stirs. Paradise, it seems, demands a price. Number 1. Mr. Cruel, the Phantom of suburban Melbourne. The police called him cunning, the newspapers called him cruel. Parents across Melbourne called him something far worse. Between 1987 and 1991, a man stalked the city's quiet northeastern suburbs, places like Lower Plenty, Ringwood, Canterbury, and Templestowe. Neighbourhoods where nothing bad was supposed to happen, streets lined with trees, where the loudest sound at night was a dog barking in the distance. But he was there, watching. He learned when families went to bed, where the phones were, how long it would take police to reach a house. He knew alarm systems, door locks, back fences. He planned like an engineer, moved like a soldier, and vanished like smoke. He struck first in Lower Plenty on the 22nd of August 1987. A family asleep jolted awake by a torch beam. The man was masked, calm, polite. He tied the parents and a son, blindfolded them, and led the 11-year-old daughter to another room. For hours he spoke softly, almost kindly, before disappearing into the night. No fingerprints, no footprints, no DNA, only silence and fear. A year later, on the 27th of December 1988, he escalated. 10-year-old Sharon Wills was taken from her Ringwood bedroom. Her parents awoke to find the phone lines cut, the house eerily quiet. 18 hours later, Sharon was found near Bayswater High School. She was wrapped in blankets, fed, bathed, and dressed in freshly washed clothes. He had even replaced her pajama bottoms. Police believe he'd washed her to destroy evidence, a level of forensic awareness rare even among professionals. In July 1990, 13-year-old Nicola Linus vanished from her Canterbury home. Her parents were out for the night. Her younger sister hid under a bed while the masked man abducted Nicola at knife point. 50 hours later, she too was released in a nearby suburb, alive. She was fully clothed, wrapped in a blanket, and had her eyes taped shut. When detectives interviewed her, she described the same calm voice, the same methodical rituals. She remembered he called her Missy and told her, "My freedom depends on your silence." And then came the crime that ended the legend of Mr. Cruel, but not his reign of terror. On the 13th of April 1991 in the suburb of Templestowe, the Chan family settled in for the night. 13-year-old Carmine, a bright student and aspiring performer, was watching TV with her two sisters when a man broke through the back door. He wore a dark blue balaclava and carried a handgun. He forced the sisters into a wardrobe, locking them inside, and vanished with Carmine.
Bring my daughter Carmen back to home because all my family love her very much. Carmen, this is your favorite dress. You have to come home and wear it. Come back and dress it. Please, release my daughter. Oh, my family love her. Don't spoil my family, please.
On the parents' car, written with spray paint, were 4 chilling words: payback and Asian drug dealer. Detectives believed the message was a decoy, a deliberate attempt to mislead them. The media exploded. Every parent in Melbourne began sleeping with the lights on. For a year, police searched every lead, every sighting of a man with a balaclava, every vehicle that didn't belong. Then, on the 9th of April 1992, a man walking his dog in Thomastown discovered skeletal remains behind an electricity substation. It was Carmine. She had been shot 3 times in the head. Unlike the earlier victims, there was no release, no ritual, no cleansing, no gentle voice. Mr. Cruel had turned to murder. But why? This marked the first time Mr. Cruel killed a victim. Investigators believe he may have done so because she saw his face or because he feared she could identify him. Police theorized that Carmine may have struggled or put up a fight, possibly even pulling off his mask during the abduction. This non-compliant behavior could have led to her seeing his face and identifying him, which unfortunately sealed her fate in the hands of this depraved monster. Within days, Operation Spectrum was formed, at the time Victoria's largest criminal investigation. Hundreds of detectives, analysts, and forensic officers combed thousands of files. They mapped 30,000 suspects, interviewed teachers, tradesmen, pilots, technicians, anyone with access to suburban homes or knowledge of security cameras. Investigators believed the offender was between 35 and 50, intelligent, meticulous, and technologically skilled. He had intimate knowledge of police procedures, possibly from military or emergency service work. He kept his victims for precise lengths of time, 18, 36, 50 hours, suggesting someone who measured control in minutes. Detectives even created a computer model of his hunting ground. Most offences were clustered near the Eastern Freeway corridor: Ringwood, Doncaster, Templestowe, Heidelberg. He always struck on weekends or school holidays, leading police to think that he had weekday employment, perhaps a professional job requiring order and planning. And always the same behavioural pattern: no swearing or shouting, calling victims Missy or darling, feeding them and playing gentle music, bathing them before release. He seemed to not crave pain, but control, the mastery of fear without chaos. Over the decades, more than 20,000 leads have been checked. Some men have been investigated, charged with unrelated crimes, and cleared. Others remain quiet possibilities, men who match the profile but died before they could be questioned. Theories range that Mr. Cruel was a former teacher or school technician using school holidays to hunt. He may have even worked in aviation or telecommunications, explaining his understanding of signal jamming and radio scanners, and also that he may have filmed his crimes. Early victims reported seeing a camera tripod in the room, but no tapes ever surfaced. In 2024, a new behavioural profile published in the Sydney Morning Herald suggested he was likely a serial burglar before turning to abduction, someone whose confidence grew with each successful break-in. Police believe he was responsible for up to 10 home invasions prior to 1987, testing alarms and responses like rehearsals. Then, when the fantasy outgrew burglary, he moved to kidnapping. When the attacks stopped after 1991, investigators didn't celebrate. They feared he had simply changed tactics, or that age, illness, or death had ended his spree. His careful planning meant there was no trail to follow. Even now, more than 3 decades later, Victoria Police continue to receive tips. The $1 million reward remains unclaimed. The families of the victims still live with the memory, a knock at night, the sudden hush of a house that used to feel safe. For them, Mr. Cruel isn't a myth. He's a silence that never left. Mr. Cruel changed Australia. Parents installed locks, alarms, motion lights. Kids were warned not to sleep with the windows open. The illusion of suburban safety died in those years. He became the embodiment of calculated evil, a man who didn't need rage or madness to destroy lives, only patience. He showed the country that the most terrifying monsters aren't supernatural. They're organized, polite, intelligent, and invisible. Today, the police sketch remains pinned to corkboards in cold case offices, a simple drawing, blank eyes staring through wall. Somewhere in Melbourne, an old man might see that sketch and remember the sound of his own voice filtered through a balaclava. He might walk past the same schools, the same homes, unnoticed. But the city hasn't forgotten him. The name Mr. Cruel still drifts through conversation like a curse, a reminder that evil once walked its streets and might, even now, be listening. If you've been watching this channel for a while, this is one of the very first cases I explored. In fact, I think it was like the second or third video on this channel. So go and give that a look if you want to see more on it. It's one of those cases that have haunted me as a child when I first learned about it and still gives me the creeps to this day. I would like to do a full doco style episode on it, so if you'd like to see that, let me know in the comments. Across Australia, from coast to desert, city to scrub, these stories linger like ghosts. Each one a wound the country learned to live with but never healed. The dunes at Wanda shift endlessly, erasing and revealing the past. The Flinders Highway still hums under the weight of tyres and secrets. The apartment in Noosa stands quiet, but its walls remember. The beaches of Byron Bay glow gold by day and whisper names by night. And in Melbourne's suburbs, a sketch of a masked man still stares from cold case files, daring the years to forget him. These murders remain unsolved not because the dead were forgotten, but because their killers hid too well, or were protected by time itself. Australia is a land of beauty and distance, and within that distance, evil finds room to breathe. Perhaps that's why these cases haunt us, not only for what was done, but because we still don't know who did it. And until we do, their stories will keep echoing through the country's quiet places, along highways, beneath benches, inside ordinary homes. 5 cases, 5 shadows that still stretch across the continent. Because in Australia, the past never truly stays buried. And that concludes our Halloween series for 2025. Hope you've enjoyed them, and as always, like, subscribe, and ding that bell, and I'll see you here next time in the shadows. Happy Halloween, Shadow fan.